Hey there, Geeksters. I know it has been a hot minute since I posted a tutorial, but I am back with another beginner-friendly tutorial, and in this one, I'll be showing you how to build a news app using real data from a free API source called thenewsapi.org. Now, I have done a tutorial like this before some years back, but this one, it has some different features. But if you want to go and watch the other one, you can, because you can also incorporate the features that I've done in that other tutorial into this one. And then this one, we are using the latest IONIC version as of time of recording, which is IONIC 6. Now in this one, we'll be looking at ways you can design your feed screen with news fetch from the API, and also do some filtering using the categories. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And also, if you find this video very helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are returning, thank you so much for choosing my videos again. I really appreciate it. Now, without wasting any more further time, let's get started. So as you know, you have to have your terminal open to run your IONIC project. So I'm gonna go and run some command line of IONIC start news app API. You can call it any name that you like. So I'll call this one news API. I'm gonna select the Angular and go and select the blank part. As you know, it's better to start on a blank canvas. Right, so this might take time depending on your internet, so I'm just gonna run through. So I moved to the news API folder, and then now I'm just going to start my project and start by opening my Visual Studio Code project. And then now I'm gonna run IONIC serve so that I can save my project on the local host, which is gonna run on the browser. Alright, I'm just gonna bring it in so you could just see how it looks like while we're coding. Just make things much more easier. Right, so we have that blank page there open for our IONIC project, and we also have our code open on our Visual Studio Code. Right, so we are just going to start by the folders we have. We have the home, we have the assets, we have the app.components. So we are going to use the home.page.html mostly. So I'm just going to use that page to render the data from the news api.org. Now you go to the news api.org. There's a get API there. I've already logged in, so I have my API on it. If not, you have to register to get your own identical API. Do not use mine. It is free to get your own API key. It is very crucial that you have your own key to get the API for you. Right, so when you're on this page and you just click on get API to get the API key here. So on the articles, that there are various ways to get the article. For like example, this one, you just get the everything, so all the articles, and this is the results that you're gonna get when you run that command. You get the source, the author, the titles. This is a JSON format. It returns in a JSON format. So I'm gonna show you how to actually populate that part on your HTML so it could look pretty on your thing, on a UI. Now let me go to the documentation. Right, so the documentation, you don't really need to do much on it. There's really not much to it, just a way to show you how to do some of the things like the authentications. They tell you that you need an API for querying. The endpoints are two main endpoints, everything and top headlines. So with the everything, you search through the article published by over 80,000 different authors. Top headlines returns breaking news headlines for the country's categories, singular publishers. Yeah, so we have also the sources. You can also mine endpoints using the sources. We're using headlines/source, and you can say which source you want to go with. Right, let's take a look at everything. What does everything return? So everything searched through the articles, and all of the articles, depending on what country you put it, you query from. So what we have is, I want this to show. I'm just trying to make this to show even better because you can't see the other end here. Right, so let's just carry on. So there is part where you can query using the parameters. The first required, the API key. The second one is the key, which the key is a phrase that you search. So if you want to search for a certain key, you can use bitcoins or anything specific to the results that you want. So we have countries, which uses the 2 letters. So yeah, the categories have those categories. We have the source, which source published it, the page size, the pages. Now the respond object, it returns the status, total number of results, the articles, the source. The articles are from. They are an array. So the source is where the articles from, the author, the title, description, the URL, the image of the article, the published date, and the actual content. Now, if you go to the source part, it goes along with the headlines. So you can, for it, you have to say which source that you want, specific source that you want it to be. For example, there's ABC News, and then it returns this part, the details of the source. So maybe if your app, you want to show all the sources, news sources, and a person can select on it, and when they select on it, they can show all the news from that source. Now, a good thing now is showing it proper. Now this is the way to get all the sources without the news. That is an example. Another part, let's go to write the top headlines, and you could see in the top headlines we have in the example we have http newsapi.org top headlines, and a country from the USA, and this API key, and then it returns all this news that you see there is from that unique line that you see that from the get. Right, let's go back to our app. I'm just going to change the title to the news. Can call it any thing that you want. I'm going to remove that part. Now I'm going to create a service. Now our service will just help us to go through the internet and collect the data that we have there in the documentation in the newsapi.org. So I'm just going to clear this terminal so you could see how I create my service page, which is going to be sitting right here in this file structure that you see. So I'm just going to run an IONIC command line command that for generating a service here on my terminal. So I'm going to go on saying IONIC generate service, keyline service. Now I'm going to call an API, which is a folder slash. Now this service name, I'm going to call it news article. So news article. Now when I run this, it will create a news article service for me that will sit on a folder called API. Right. So now that it went successful, as you can see, I have a folder right there called API. It has the 2 news article files rather. Don't need to worry about this one. It's the spec, and then the one that we'll be working on is actually the one that is beneath it. That is the news article.service.ts. All right. So right here, I'm gonna call. Let me close this part. Right here, I'm gonna call on my article the APIs, the API endpoints, so that it could collect all the data, and then I'm just gonna use it on my home page, just calling it from this news article file. Now the part that I'm gonna have and I need to really look at is where and how am I going to get my API key. Now in the API key, you can place it here, but I wouldn't advise that because it will be exposed to the public when you're publishing maybe this project somehow. So we need to have it on your environment file. In your environment file, it is it's easy to hide it. It's easy to hide it so nobody can see actually your API keys and all that. It is advisable that you do that. And yeah, so right, now before we actually go with API keys and stuff, let's just really use the HTTP and import it and declare it, inject it right here, so that we're able to collect our data from the internet. So I'm just gonna call an private HTTP HTTP client from HTTP client. Right, so client there. So it's not going to recognize it at the moment until I import it right on top. So, okay, there's no auto imported for this one. It's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and import it right at the top. So, HTTP clients is from Angular Common, I think. So, I'm just going to call it here HTTP client from at Angular. It's common HTTP. There we go. There is it. Right, so no error. It means it's a right part of HTTP client that we used. Right, okay. So now we are able to connect and connect to the internet from our app. Right. Now let's go ahead and move on into our environment. So I'm just gonna close this down and go to environment.ts. Okay, so this one I'm gonna put in a comma here. I'll call this API key variable there. I'm gonna leave it blank for now, and then I'm gonna declare another variable called the URL base, which I'm gonna show you which part of the URL base you should have there. Alright, so when you have this part, I'm gonna go to the newsapi.org documentation to get my API key. To get it, you need to go through your profile. Inside the news API, inside your profile, there's a part that says API key. You copy this long string there, copy it, and then paste it on your project. Now remember, it will be different from mine, right? And don't use mine. Right, so the base URL base where you can get it is just here, this part where it says http://newsapi.org version 2. You paste that line. Right, so that we are done with the environment.ts. Make sure you save the file. So we're going to use it when we get into this part. Now I'm going to declare another rather a method function for getting all the top headlines. I'm just going to call this get top headlines. It will be an observable. So I'm just going to go with any there. So I'm just going to have the curly braces. And then for observable, you need to return something. So I'm going to return an observable here. I'm going to write on return. Now, what are we returning? It's this lines there. Now, let me explain the top headlines on our documentation. If you go through the documentation, you need to have, where is it? So you need to have endpoint for top headlines. Now there's a part for everything and top headlines. Now for top headlines, this is the line that you need to have on your HTTP on your IONIC project, and that line will help us have the proper returns. Okay, so we already have this baseline, the news app version 2. Now we need to have the country part. So I'm from South Africa, it will be ZA, so depending on which country you're from. And then you need to put on the API key, the part that you need. We already have this part. You need the top headlines, the country, and API. Right, the remaining stuff we already have it on our variables environment. So here I'm going to use the $ concatenating. So I'm just gonna say http client .get. Right, so .get. Right, so I'm just gonna have. Let me just open the bracket here so it could be really easy to see actually what the stuff that we have. So it expects a URL string which you're gonna have. So I'm gonna use the $ concatenating the string because it has to be one string. So you do this the $ here and then curly braces. So whatever you place here will be the variable that you declared, right? Which is not necessarily a string. So if you have it like this, it will actually get it as a string. So in my environment, not the production, the actual environment, remember the one that we declared on the other side, I'm gonna call in my API key. Now start with the base because the first line is http newsapp.org version 2. Right, so the next part will be top headlines. So I'm going to write that top headlines and then country USA and API. I'm going to change the country to ZA. and then it wants another variable, a parameter that it wants the API key. So I'm going to have another $sign and curly braces to concatenate the variable that I had declared right on the other side. Right, so curly braces environments dot, it should be environments dot API key, and that is pretty much it. Similar lines that we have there. And if I run this and call it using the HTTP client, it should get me this results of a JSON response that you see on the documentation. Right, the other part that you want to have before we test it out is in our app we're trying to have malicious news. Okay, we don't have errors. Just make sure that you keep on checking errors regularly just to see where you are having a problem before you're going to solve the problem. Right, so the other part that you might want to have is getting the headlines per category. All right. So just like the get top headlines, I'm going to have another variable, not variable, a method called get articles by category. Right. Now, this part, the category will be served by the user. Still an observable, it returns an observable, so I'm going to have it there, observable any, and have a return statement, and another return statement. I'm going to call the HTTP client because we need to get data from the internet, right? So what we have for our category is $sign. Let's have it here. I'll start with the base. As per usual, gonna have the base, and what happens after the base when you want to get articles per category. Let's go and look at our API documentation. As you can see, we have categories there, which they have their own categories possible. Now this example, let's go through the examples that they have here. And in this example, for this one, the category is business. So the parameters is business. The parameter name is categories equals to. The business part is what you actually specify it to be. So I'm going to copy the part from category equals sign. So I'm going to have something like top headlines, country, categories. Right. So I'm just going to go on and copy that part, paste it here. So top headlines, and then the category. This part will be, I'm going to manually write business, but this part of business will be populated by the user. Say, okay, which categories do you want to go with? And then the other part is actually the API. As we've known, we have to say the parameter and API. $sign curly braces environments.api. Alright, so I'm just gonna save this part. This will return use per category of business. Alright, so no errors at the moment yet. So I'm just gonna go back to my home page and try to test out this all everything that we have done so far and see if it actually return what we wanted to return. So in this part, I'm going to call I want to call my article service, so I have to inject it on my constructor in my home.ts. Alright, I'm gonna call the news service. Alright, news article service. It has imported that line for me there. Check if it hasn't for you. Right, inside my constructor, I will then call the two methods for getting all the categories and getting all the news per category and getting the top headline. So I'm gonna call article service that I've just declared here and say get article per category. Now because it is a observable, I need to then call subtract. And let me just move this part. Alright, then we're just gonna have square circle brackets and have results there, and then I'm gonna have the equals greater than method sign, and then inside here I'm going to log what we got from our results. So if I console log results and see what I get in return, and let me run it and see in my console log just to see if we are still on the right path. Okay, now it complains about the null injector, no provider for HTTP client. That means we actually forgot to have it on site our module. So I'm gonna go to my files folders app.module.ts, and inside my imports there you see I need to have the client's HTTP client module. You can have it right at the end or right at the start, anyway, just as long as it's inside the square brackets of imports. So I'm gonna say HTTP client, HTTP client module, run it. Now we don't have errors, and we got our results back. Let's see what we have inside our results. So inside our results here, we have 3 things: article status, which is okay, total results of 56. Right, when you look at articles, you see it's an array which returns 20 articles, and inside here with author, content, description, public, source, title, URL, the photo. Right, we also have this other one here and the other one there. So now this is a JSON format, which is actually good. We need to now declare articles so we could actually populate it there. Right, the other part that we need to test out is the other function that we had that collects the articles to see also if it also returns the stuff that we want. Okay, .subscribe, gonna call it subscribe. Result is equal to greater than, basically the same thing that we had. Okay, if we log in here, right, we have the articles. Okay, so if we remove this part from the business, now remember we want to be specific to say which one is it from. If you look at the content, read through the content, it's about all articles are from the business categories. If I change here to health and I open the articles and we want to see, it should be basically about health content, right? Yeah, so but it's not okay. So we need to specifically state which category that we want, which will be selected by user. We have various articles categories, rather. We have business, entertainment, and so here if I change to sport, also it will have to talk about the sport, right? And now you want this to be specific. I want it to be to say the user should select which category that they want to have at this point. So here I'm going to pass in category. So if I go to okay, I'm just gonna change the category here to that category that the user will be placing. Right, if I go to my page here, this is expecting a category. This is actually wrong. It should be get top headlines. Yeah, sorry about that. Right, now it's expecting one parameter, which is a category. Now I'm just gonna say, for example, if I can just populate sport here. Okay, because it wants a string. Okay, if I can populate sport here in my service, it will see category sport. Now I'm just gonna have a variable called selected category. This one will actually have that the name of the category here instead of having it hard coded like that. So here I'm pausing this dot selected category. But one, okay. So if I read this part here, I should be able to see that sport category. If I change this to health, it should change it from the articles that are fetched from the other part of the project. Okay, So inside my sources, okay, let me also see in the other article. Trying to read through the content to see if it's the right content. Okay, line 17, I'm reading through the line 13 there. Let's see. Right here. Okay, this is weird. Okay, but I can tell it's from the health departments, just that it's on different language. So it says that it was DE. I'm not sure which country DE is from. So let me just go through line 17. Now the news pretty much look like the accurate news. Okay, about health, hopefully. Right, so the category part, I'm just gonna leave it for now. I'm just gonna pause it for now, and then just focus on getting all the articles, top headlines. To do that, I'm going to declare a array called top headlines, which I'm going to populate it with the articles that are collected from API endpoints. So I'm just gonna leave it empty for now. Okay, so down here I'm going to populate my headlines with the results that I got back from the get top headlines. So I'm going to say top headlines got to results, which now results is, if we look at the results, it has article status and total, and only want this parameter, the article part, which is an array. So on top here, I'm just going to results.articles, and let's see how it looks like. The articles should return an array of articles on its own. See how it does. It did here in line 16. So, right. So that's basically what we need. So I'm going to say top lines is equal to results.articles. So just get that exact array part that we need. The actual articles. I'm just commented that part of the line 21. Okay. So on top headlines, now we have top headlines. I think at this point everything is cool. I'm just going to push. You can use that part or say push whatever is inside top headlines. Edit with the new results. Okay, it's one part of doing it, but in this part it will say whatever it was in there, it should populate it with the other part. So yeah. So now I'm just going to test out if my top headlines variable has the values. So I'm just going to log it, and it does have the variables that we need. Now at this point, if you've got to this point, I guarantee you doing the HTML is much more easy. The hard work is actually done. You are good to go with your UI, which is actually my favorite part. Right, so we are going to use the iron list. Okay, inside iron list, I'm going to have an iron row. Inside iron row, I'm going to have columns. I'm calling columns. Alright, so let me just test out and call in iron label. And just on my iron label, I will... okay, so here, I'm going to call in ing4 and let articles of top headlines. This will collect all the array and populate it into this column. This actual row will have all those array rendered piece by piece. Make sure you have the correct word for top headlines, otherwise it's gonna have an error. Right, so all the article inside that article, I can then use articles to populate each element inside this array. We have author, content, description, and. So I'm going to call in articles to curly braces. Right. I'm going to go article dot author, and let's see if I save. See, now my authors are showing on my phone there. All of this are the authors of all those 20 news results that we got from our array. Now we are going to populate the rest of the items that are remaining. Now for little guidance, I'm going to go to the IONIC framework, the documentation, the UI components. I'm going to go through the read part. So we already have the iron rows and the columns. This is how you actually do it for reference if you are looking at doing it different than I had. So basically I just have columns. Here I'm gonna have a title for you, right on top of it for you. The other part will be right there on top, which will be for the categories and stuff. So I'm just gonna style this because that for you is a little bit cramped. So we have that for you there. The next part that I would want is to have another column for the actual image. I think the next part we're gonna have an image. Now let me size this to size 4, so this column could just take up size 4. The total of column sizes inside your row should be 12, so each column can have 4, 4, 4, or whatever sizes that will multiply to 12. So I'm just copy that column, and then in this, the first column, the one that will be the first line inside this row will be the image. Okay, so the source from the image, I'm just gonna show you how to get the sources image there. So I'm gonna call source is equals to curly braces, double curly braces. I'm gonna call article, make sure it's correct wording. Yeah, some of those little mistakes can be like a lot of stress. So I'm gonna have URL to image, like that part here that you see. I'm just going to save and see if it shows. Okay, right, so you see this actual image, meaning that image means that something wrong with my image. Let me see my lines. Okay, great, I forgot the curly braces. Right, so my images are populating, as you can see there. Right, and that column, the first column of that of this row, the other part is that author. Like, you can really pretty much put more of the things, right? So let's quickly style the image part, and then we are going to do the remaining stuff. So here on side the image element, I'm going to call in the style, like that. You can have this on your .css part, but for being quick, I'm just gonna quickly put on some styles here. So I'm just gonna have standard height and width 300 and 100. Object fit will be cover. Want it to be a little round, so I'm gonna give it a border radius of 5 pixels. So let's take a look. Okay, looks pretty decent to me. Right, so we are now going to move on to the next part. And yeah, this column is just going to resize it to size 8. We had 4, that is 12. So yeah, I have the author. I'm going to have we have published at here in this P. I'm going to call an article that published at. Okay, so here I'm going to use the pipeline for dates, so you could just format my dates properly here. I'm going to save and see how it looks like. Pretty much neat. I'm going to also go through another part of having articles dot, let me see, I should title, save it, and then we have that title there, as you can see. Alright, and I style it with the font weight 200. Was a little bit bigger, so I'm just gonna style it to 200 font weight. Okay, so now it pretty much looks like a decent news app. Just a little bit styling on my rows, just give it a little spacing. So I'm just gonna column the styles right on top and start styling. Just gonna go with the background color for this rows. I want a little bit of gray, so I'm just gonna call this one and see how it looks like. It's a bit dark. I can just change it here to look a little bit brighter. That's pretty much it. Now really this part is depending on your stylings. Alright, I'm gonna have my border radius 16 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, another part that I would want also is some margin, so I'm gonna call class on margin. So if you check, it just pretty much give you the right size of spacing. going to stop at this point, but basically this is what you need to collect your data and display it. The next part I'm gonna do the categories. I hope you guys liked this video and you found it very helpful. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, please like this video, and see you in the next part.